What's going on, people? It's Uncle Dallas. I'm here and I'm live. I'm on a lot of places. Y'all follow me? I hope so. It's been a great day. This is going to be the last broadcast for the weekend. Y'all go ahead and pray for me. Congratulate me because we're going to go to Atlanta. Ooh, okay. We're going to go to Atlanta to see my daughter. She is pregnant and is going to have the baby any time now. So, we got to go be ready for that. Yeah, so we got to go be ready for that. So, you guys, I appreciate you. I'm gonna pray about something. Talk about something today that should kind of move you into the direction of helping you get to the next level. Prayer, and it's really interesting. People talk about prayer, but what I'm about to show you in prayer will probably change how you pray and what your prayer looks like and what's going to happen in your prayer in that whole 9 yards. It's going to change it. I promise. I'm looking at something, and because what I'm watching happen, and I think a lot of us are watching happen, we are like right in these different places, these places where we want to see God move, and it's happening, but it's not happening. It's moving, but it's not moving. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, it's moving, but it's not moving. It's happening, but it's not happening. And so I went to a little bit of a study about prayer. I studied how can I create an opportunity to cause our prayers to, or what causes our prayers to happen? What causes certain prayers to take place and other prayers not to take place? What causes certain things to take place in our lives and other things? I mean, some things that just happen, and then other times we have things that just do not take place. No matter how hard we try, they do not take place. And so I went through a slight, and this is just a simple study. It's not going to be an advanced study, just a simple study. And it's going to start in 1 Corinthians, but it's going to start kind of in a backwards way. What we have found ourselves in the midst of, let me make sure I get my mic here. I think I'm going to take one of those mic things and get one of those mics that you can put here, because that all my stuff on my desk is kind of gets cluttered after a while. So we go to 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter. Now, it's very interesting about prayer. Most of us do an assigned prayer, or we do an organized prayer, or we do a how do we say this? Let's see, closer to the mic. Yeah, there we go. Most of us do an assigned prayer or an organized prayer or some type of prayer that we've planned. Our Father which art in heaven, do the Lord's Prayer. We all do prayer. Prayer has not become communication. What prayer has become is a cry for help. And I understand that it's okay for that. Prayer has been a cry for help for a number of people. So what I want you to understand is this, that prayer is not a cry for help. Yeah. When you understand that, first of all, prayer is not a cry for help, then you understand the purpose and the power behind prayer. Most of us go, I need something from you, God, so what I do is I pray. I need your help. I pray. Now, what that says is, if you have to pray, he doesn't know what you need, and so you're giving him notice that I need something. I'm giving him notice that you need something. And that's interesting on one end, because I know that he's the source of that power. The other side, though, is not so much the source of the power, is why do you feel it necessary to share what you're going through with him? Well, because I am in need of something, and I know that if I ask him, he's able to give it to me. But that tells us that there's a consciousness that says he's not really paying attention, so I need to let him know. So in that essence, in that situation, it's more of a cry for help. Because what you have to realize is that when you understand who you are spiritually, you understand that there is a constant dialogue. There is a constant dialogue between you and God. But when you understand that your spirit is the force or the source of the dialogue, you realize that you're not looking up toward heaven when you can, because he's omnipotent. You're not looking down toward heaven when you can, because he's omnipotent. You're actually looking inside of yourself to trigger what's inside of you. Now, what do I mean by that? So, right now, my daughter is in the last days of pregnancy, and she's very large. So she's having different challenges. Number one, back starting to hurt, Braxton Hicks, what do they call contractions. She's having these things happen. And so when she has these things happen, you go, oh my God, God, help me, or God, I need your help. So she calls out to God. And so that's saying, stop this pain. I want this pain to stop, yada, yada, yada. Now, the challenge that happens is her passion for her desire puts more pressure on her ability to pray. I need y'all to hear me now. So that means because she's in pain, she is now not praying to God. She's calling to God to be rescued. And the minute you call on the name of the Lord, shall be saved. She's calling for sosa. She's calling for deliverance. Soza, as it says in the Greek. She's calling for soza. Now, because she's calling for soza, the passion of her, or the urgency of that prayer, causes God to move at a different level. I need you guys to hear me. It causes God to move at a different level. Why? Because at this point, the way God is in the spirit, he's like, I'm with you all the time. I'm wherever you go, I'm there. And so when you begin to pray, you begin to pray at a point that God says, okay, she needs me now. Now, what you have to realize is when you need him, he ignites something. What's the word I use? Yeah. He ignites something or engages something inside of you that causes you not to be in pain, whether it's a chemical in your body or your spirit. Something inside of you has the power to answer that prayer. Why? When Christ came, when he died, he broke the barrier between you and God that was there since the days of Adam and Eve. Now, it was never breaking the connection, but it broke a barrier. If you are running track and you have to jump a hurdle, they're not stopping you from the finish line. What they're doing is making sure you jump over the hurdle to get to the finish line. Okay, we got that. So, what happens? What happens is that place of prayer intensifies the move of God in your life. But you have to understand all these other things. You have to understand that he's already there. You have to understand that he is omnipotent, and wherever you need him to be, he's paying attention to you. He's paying attention to you all the time. He's not just looking at you in the times where you do good stuff, nor is he watching you at the times you do bad stuff. He is there all the time. Now, what does that mean? That means that God knows what you have need of before you ask. And the Bible even says that. The word says that. Logic of the spirit, quantum theory, all these things say he is intentionally watching you and he pays attention to you. So what happens when I pray? So when you pray, the key to prayer is understanding that he's there and understanding that he's the answer to that prayer before you pray that prayer. So what happens is you are simply commanding the power that's already in you by assigning to what you have need of. We're in 1 Corinthians, the 58th chapter, and the 15th chapter and the 58th verse. Yeah. Because I want you to see something here. There are prayer triggers. I'm going to show you how to operate at a level where prayers begin to come to pass, where you begin to move in areas. When you pray, you see something. When you pray, something takes place. I'm going to teach you today about prayer triggers. All right? Because a lot of times, see, religion teaches us organized prayer. Christianity teaches us desperation of prayer. Spirituality teaches us acknowledgement of position. Okay? One teaches you organized, one teaches you desperation, and the last one teaches you where he is positioned. He's there. Okay, so follow me here. Corinthians, the 1st chapter and the 15th verse. And I'm going to jump down because I'm going to jump back. In the 15th chapter, 1 Corinthians, 15th chapter, 58th verse says this: Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Now, a lot of times we find ourselves in this position. It's very interesting to me. If you go to Genesis, you hear God said, let there be light. Then it goes to the Lord God says, let there be light. Now, there's a position of the Lord that we'll discuss at some other time, but this is that position. He says, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Now, what is the work of the Lord? Is it Bible? No. Is it making sure your church is okay? No. What the work of the Lord is the thing that's been assigned to you. That means that every pressure from religion, every pressure from pastor, every pressure from being a part of the auxiliary, every pressure from being in a specific position, all these pressures are second to the fact of being in the work of the Lord. So what's the work of the Lord? I'm glad you asked. So if you're writing, write down Hebrews. My Bible, guys, I tore my Bible. I'm so upset about that. I got to get me another one. But write down Hebrews, because see, we thought and we've been taught and we've been tricked in thinking that the work of the Lord is doing the works of the organization, when that is not the case. The work of the Lord is the thing that's been assigned to you to make sure the system of God continually runs. Now, what do I mean by that? Hebrews, the 12th chapter, and the first verse said, wherefore, seeing we are surrounded about by such a greater cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside the weights and the sin that does so easily beset us, and run with patience the race that's set before us. So now, when he says the work of the Lord, I apologize, you have been misled. I don't want to say tricked. I don't want to say lied to. You've been misled. What you've been misled to believe is that the work for the church and the work for the pastor and the work is the work of the Lord. Now, it may be a part of your assignment, but it's not everybody's assignment. Being at church on Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, not everybody's assignment. But we've been just kind of herded into these positions, believing that this is the work of the Lord. And so now you've been working on the Lord for 15 years and you're still struggling. You still have depression. You still are not moving in the things that God wants you. You still have not seen what God has for you. And the reason you've not seen that is because the work of the Lord has nothing to do with the work of the organization. It has nothing to do with Christianity. The work of the Lord has to do with what you are assigned to do for the entire moving of the system of God. So he says, in order for you to get what you need to get, you have to be steadfast, unmovable, always doing the thing that he's moving you toward. Why? Because the system of God is an organism. It is not an organization, it's an organism. Now, within an organism, you have to realize every joint supplies. Go to Ephesians, the 6th chapter. Every joint supplies. He said the veins and the blood, every joint supplies. Right now, when I do this with my hand, everything in my hand is doing what it's supposed to do. The muscles are moving in and out. The bones are supporting. The skin is protecting. The blood is flowing. All these things are actually, hear me now, these things are actually working for the good of what I'm doing. Now, I'm not grabbing a cup. I'm just doing what I'm doing. I'm not holding my hat. I'm just doing what I'm doing. You follow me? Why? Because if I do the thing that everybody does for the organization, what I do is I cause a deficit in what I have need of. Got me? Okay. That's another teaching altogether. That's a whole nother ride. So he says, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. You follow me? But here's why. Here's the trigger. The reason he's saying that is above what he wrote. Okay, so what he says now, if you go to the 53rd verse, and he says, for corruption must put on incorruption, mortality must put on immortality. So when this corruption shall be put on incorruption, and mortality shall be put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass, saying, death, where's thy death is swallowed up in victory. Death, where's thy sting, or grave, where's thy victory? The sting of death is sin, the strength of the sin is the law. He's saying the reason you're steadfast is because the longer you do what he's told you to do, the more you walk from mortality to immortality. He's saying immortality, guys. Immortality. He said, when you go from corruption to incorruption and mortality to immortality, it is written here in the book, the principle is you are steadfast to go from immortality. Now, what you have to follow is why then do certain prayers get answers and other ones don't? Now, give you some things. This is for big boys and big girls, so prepare. One of the reasons that your prayers, which are not answered, that are postponed or misdirected, is because you're attached to a church, a religion. Now I go to church, I'm attached to church. And because I'm attached to church, you are now a double-minded being. One part of the being says, I want to do what you tell me to do, God. The other part of the being says, I want to make sure pastor is happy. You are double-minded. So what happens is your trials and your tribulations guide you to a place that you begin to follow God. So things happen in your life that move you toward just trusting God. Tragedy, situations, circumstances, mindsets, Uncle Dallas, all these things move you to a place where you trust God. So the first thing is attach to things stronger than you're attached to God. You follow me? Because we will break our necks to get to a specific religion and do what that pastor says and not do what God says. See, when you understand that if he is giving you something in this direction and the pastor says go in this direction, you got to know go here, 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 here to get here. So when you were going from the closest point between places, distance between 2 points is a straight line, you now were supposed to have a house 5 years ago, but you went through all the rituals, all the traditions, all the dogmas, all the auxiliary laws, all these other laws to hear God. When God goes, no, you listen to me first, then you listen to everybody else. You follow me? That is why I have a challenge. My job is not to tell you how to be a part of my organization. That's not my job. My job is to give you access to a level of God's presence and a level of God's power that will put you in a position where you go, this is where I desire to be. I don't have to be there. You follow me? Now, I do classes every Tuesday. Those that come. Those that don't. Now, everybody that's come, go, wow, it's good. I want to be here. Because you have a desire to be at the next level. Now, if you are stuck in church, which is the first level, you are stuck in rituals. You're stuck in how to do 1, 2, 3. You're stuck in that ritual. And so now what God is telling you to do becomes a decision against God. Why? Because pastor said we're going to fast. Pastor said we're going to pray. Pastor said all these kind of things. Now, if those things, so let me make sure I get you on the right structure, under the right structure. If those things line up with what your spirit is saying, then you're okay. Here's the challenge though. We never teach you how to hear from your spirit. We teach you how to listen to us and follow us. That's not the way it's done. When I say, guys, pray for 7 days, I'm not telling you to pray because I want you to see if you're obedient to what I ask you to do. I say pray to 7 days because you got to pierce those situations in your life so that you can hear from God yourself. I've got people calling me more and more, countless people calling me going, man, you remember when you said that? Yeah, this is what happened. You remember when you said that? This is what happens. Why? Because my talk, my teach, my help should be igniting the spiritual move in your life. It should be transitioning your mind that has been telling you to not do what God's told you to do for years because religion has given you an excuse. Number one. Number two, you're trying to be a Christian. Yes, this will be on YouTube. You're trying to be a Christian. Because you're trying to be a Christian, you look for Christian rules and regulations instead of spiritual rules and regulations. Because Christian rules and regulations are for the immature. Because I don't know what God is saying, I look for a structure that tells me what God is saying instead of going, what is God saying directly to me? What is God saying for me? So when I speak to you and speak into your life, Most of the people get upset with me because they go, I don't understand why this is said, and I don't understand why this is done, and I don't understand why you would say that. I said something to a young lady on one of our mentoring calls. I said, you need to start working with youth. And she goes, what am I going to do with youth? A couple of days later, she encounters a lady that gives grants for youth organizations. Now, I'm not trying to gain any glory from that, but I got to get you past the trials and tribulations when it comes to be a Christian, because you're relying on trying to learn the rules or the cheat codes to get God to move in your life. He doesn't need a cheat code, ladies and gentlemen. He just needs you to listen. So if you listen, you go beyond Christianity. So if you're stuck in church, you're being hindered and distracted. If you're stuck in Christianity, I'm a Christian. And so what happens when people say things to you, they hold you accountable for the laws that Christian beliefs hold. So now when you say things to them that they don't like, they go, I thought you were a Christian. Well, first of all, my basis of Christianity is not determined by the structure that you feel in your mind to be my rules and regulations. Second of all, in order for you to even call me a Christian, I must be doing something Christian right for you to even identify the fact that I am a Christian. Third of all, if you think I go to church defines why I am a Christian, probably why your life is so crazy, because you are looking for ways to get a cheat code to get around simply facing God. So you don't go to church because you believe God is there. But you're a Christian, and so you hold true these structures so that you won't break the Christian rule. What you've even been taught about sin is not right. But what you find is these things are safe enough that you don't have to deal with God yourself. So Christianity puts you in a position where I go, I'll wait for the pastor to tell me what God says, thus you stay stuck in church. So when he makes you feel bad, or she makes you feel bad because you didn't come to church on Sunday, but when you have a challenge, they don't make you feel bad for not coming to us and asking us for help, because the true definition of a minister is one that serves. So you're in this Christian walk trying to walk a structure. Well, what's wrong with Christianity? Absolutely nothing. But you're not looking for an ability to go through trials and tribulations. You're looking at ability to go past trials and tribulation and access the solution that God has for you. You follow me? Now, here is the thing that happens to you. So now you go to spirituality. Here's what happens to us. We will see 5 or 6 people, something happens to them because they go to church, and we think that's because I'm in church. It was never because you were in church, honey. You could have got that same move if you were on the street, because God is in the streets. He's omnipotent. So what you're doing is you're going, okay, I'm going to follow this structure because this structure helps me. Now, does church help? Yes. The job of church is to introduce you to an omnipotent God and then push you toward him. Why? If God tells you not to go to church on Sunday morning, do you go? If you're sitting in the midst of church and God goes, get up, get out of here right now, do you leave? If God speaks to you and says, listen, there's a lady inside the church over on the 3rd row. I want you to go tell her that I love her and then give her this word. Do you do it? Or does the church say you can't do that? Well, that's not decent and in order. Well, let me tell you the trick that you've been done with the decent and in order. Who is to determine what's decent and what's in order? You? A man? Me? Who determines what's decent and in order? Is it the person that made the world? Or the person that is managing the world? I was talking to a friend of mine one time, and he said, do you recycle? Of course, my wife, being the clean person that she is, she does recycle. And he said, because we really got to keep that plastic out of the ocean because it kills whales. I said, let me tell you something that's really interesting. It's amazing that the people that are supposed to make the decision to keep the plastic out of the ocean blame you for not putting it in a bag and sending it to them. But you don't have a refinery. You don't have a place to put trash. You have none of those things. So when you get rid of your plastic, you're not taking it to the ocean. Well, it's going in the landfills. Are you putting it there? See, you have to realize you have been assigned pressure to do things and be done, and things be done, because nobody wants to take the responsibility to say, you know what, I'm going to come up with a machine because I'm a billionaire that will help us to separate the plastic from the trash. No, my organization is going to make the public feel bad because they're not recycling, but they don't have a recycling plan. So I can separate my plastics from my glasses all day long, but the amount of plastic that this world supplies can go through one situation. We can stop dumping stuff in the ocean. You follow me? Welcome to church. Oh, my church changed my life. Your church didn't change your life. God changed your life. You are the church. So how did a building and a leader in that building change your life? Why? Because you have not understood the access you have to God. So now you want to give somebody praise for something that happened. When I spoke to that young lady and she said, hey, somebody said something to me because Uncle Dallas said something. It was not me. All I do is listen. Now, guess what? If I don't listen, I'll say something incorrect because I'm in the spirit and I'm spiritual. So I have to stay in that place. Why? Because that's what happens. Now, let's go to where we're going. So then we have prayer. So how does prayer actually supposed to happen? What are we actually supposed to do when it comes to prayer? Prayer is a consistent connection between you and your spirit. Yeah, I know you thought it was you and God. Yeah, that's a good one. But it's between you and your spirit. It's a divine connection that allows you to become the authentic person that you are. That's why people say it's energy. That's why they say power. That's why they say all these things that they use for the Spirit of God. Why? Everybody wants to have the edge. Everyone wants to have a hook. It's okay. It's all right. It doesn't hurt anything to call them spirit or energy. I like a rose to call it a rose. By any other name, it's still a rose. But if it's not defined by what it's called, because if you call it a plant and you eat it, then you're not using it for the purpose that it is. Although I've heard you can eat roses. I'm not there yet. So what does that mean? That means you have to get one with who you are. So when you're going through stuff, it is not a lack of God being there. It's the lack of the fact of you wanting to face the truth about yourself. Me too. This is not y'all. It's not facing the truth about us. We don't want to face the fact that I am lazy. I don't get up and do what I'm supposed to do. I get distracted easy. I don't go through those things because I have not faced me. So what happens is you don't want to face you. So you go to church waiting for God to tell the pastor what God wants to tell you. And then all of a sudden he's a great pastor. He's not a great pastor until he places you in the presence of God and God begins to move. Until he weans you from dependency on church, dependency on religion, dependency on the peer pressure of the organization, and dependency on being a Christian, and put you in a position that says there is something so deep about your spiritual connection to God. Ask all the people that are part of the mentoring course. Because I shared the things that I can't share here because this is not a time to do that. Anyway, so now let's talk about prayer. So you have the regular prayer that is a consistent conversation between you and God. You are speaking to God. God is listening to you. You are talking to God. God is talking back. Now, what does that mean? That's not prayer. That's dialogue. See, when you deal with a person that says, I've got to go pray, you're telling the person that says, I don't have a position in heaven. I've got to go to the position I've set in earth, which is an Old Testament sanctuary. You got it? So when you go to the sanctuary, what you find is you say, okay, I do it. Now, I've told many of you, if you've taken part of our mentoring class, I told you, go find a place where you meet God consistently. Go find a place where you meet God consistently. The movie came out was War Room. All those things come to meet God consistently. Are they the place where God hears you? No, those are the places where your spiritual triggers cause God to increase in his movement. That's the place where you sacrifice your physical mindset, your carnal mindset, and open yourself up to a place where now your body, your mind,
Now know this place is where we go to speak to God about a direction. We go to be empowered by God. It's your whole structure. You wear nice clothes to church. You wear white clothes when you go to white clothes to a funeral. A wedding. You wear black clothes. You are now structuring yourself or positioning yourself to be in that position. Now, God doesn't care, but in our mind structure, we have to have an organized place for everything that we do. We have to have a place where we can say, this is where I am. Now, the challenge that happens with it, because you've been a part of a religious organization for such a long time, you believe you have to go to a place and that place represent you talking to God. No. That place represents you getting away from everything and allowing your total being to be a part of God. That's why you go to your secret place. It's not the fact that God is not going to speak to you. It's when you go someplace, you need to understand that this is a place of relaxation. This is a place where God and I meet. And his spirit will meet you there because that's the consistency that you set up in your mind. So your mind will shut down and go, okay, this is a place of rest. But you can do it anywhere. It's a way to learn how to be beyond distractions. It's a way to learn how to quiet your mind. That's all that is. It can happen on the front porch while 1,000 birds are singing. People that really understand how to silence their mind to hear the spirit can do it anywhere. I can do it now, right this very second while I'm talking to you guys. Why? Because I've done it for so long, I realize that I don't have to go run to my bedroom or run to my office. I simply am wherever I am. Now, in the places that I am consistently, I'm already automatically relaxed in those places because I'm there consistently. I pray in my office consistently. So there's a certain level of spiritual presence in my office. If you come to our house, when you come to our house, it is so peaceful in here. Everybody goes, we don't want to leave. Why? Because the presence of God has full reign in this house. So we don't go, oh God, we need something. What we do is speak truth. Now, there are about 7, but I'm going to give you 4 prayer triggers. These are things that trigger a different level of prayer when you are praying. There is a consistency of prayer, which is what you do every day, every morning. When you're walking around, your mind is stayed on God. Your mind is stayed on your plan. These will help you to get things done. Because what happens is when you begin to move, those things that you move that causes you to move or not to move, those things are the things that hinder you or stop you. Why? Because you have had little things happen. For example, your fears, your disappointments, the things that you like, the things you don't like, the things you broke, the things you don't break. All those things are ways for you to get hindered. But what you have to get past is the part of you that is already successful. Because most of us have already accomplished. And because when you accomplish, you go, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. But something major has happened in our lives. And that major thing that has happened in our lives stops us in those key times we're supposed to move. I don't care what it is, a divorce, a fight, somebody passed away. Those things are resonated and lodged in our minds to keep us from moving in our spirit. Why? Because we live a comparative life. Or I'm insecure. I don't look good. I look bad. All these things are stopping you from moving in the place. So what God has to do is allow a trigger to happen in your life so that you push past those things. Did you know that? While you thought, well, I don't have any place to live, you're going, okay, I'm praying to God to give me something to live, instead of going, wait a minute, why am I in this place when I serve an all-powerful God? Because the moment you identify that place is the moment you move. The moment you identify that place, the moment you move. Because the moment you identify that place, you now in a position where you can sacrifice that place to go to the next level. You wouldn't sacrifice it in the last. A lot of you don't sacrifice. They're scared to. If I told you right now, you need to get in your car, drive to whatever hour and a half city is away, and we will meet there and God will change your life. Many of you got to go to school, got to go to work, got to go this, got to go this, got to boogie. You got the boogeyman syndrome on you. But the 4 things. Passion, that's a trigger. But if I told you that your son or your daughter was going through something and they needed you, you would overlook all of that stuff and you'd move. Passion would happen. So certain things are happening that ignite your passion, so God can get you to go beyond this position and move the way he wants you to move. So your passion kicks in. That's why some of you start getting into relationships quickly and all these things, because passion is a trigger. I'm going to teach you something. Passion is a trigger. I love her so much. I love him so much. I love my wife so much, to the point that it causes me to move. And then you begin to move and realize, wow, this is where I was supposed to be in the first place. Everybody that can type passion. Everybody that can, passion. That's a trigger. Passion is a spiritual trigger that gets you to the next level. You want to understand something? Understand passion. Somebody type it. Type passion. All right? That's a trigger. Now you got to realize you can't understand these triggers until you understand that you are not in a bad place with God. Well, I lied yesterday. I'm sorry. Keep it moving. I told keep it moving. Some people want to explain what happened. It doesn't matter. You don't have time to figure out why it happened. You got to keep moving. So he'll allow something to happen. He'll allow your son to say something, your daughter. Anything that ignites the passion trigger, that's what he does. Number 2, pressure. Everybody type in pressure. Everybody can type in pressure. Pressure. So what happens is he allows pressure to be on you. Because some of you know you don't move until the pressure's high. You don't move till the bill is due. You need $100 today. That pressure comes, it triggers you. Why? When you understand that God is right there, he does not move. The pressure comes, you go, wait a minute, God, where are you? Now, pressure puts you in the position where you begin to look for God. Passion means you want to satisfy something. Pressure puts you in the position where you begin to look for God. Like, where is God in this situation? Where is God in these circumstances? Pressure. So right now, you get to the point, every month, you know you need rent. Every month, you know you need mortgage. Every month, you know you need certain things. Why do you get to the last week and then start putting pressure on yourself to do it? Because pressure pushes you past your person. God allows pressure. It pushes you past your person. But what it also does is put you in a position where you understand the power of the spiritual man. Purpose. Purpose. A lot of you have not moved in purpose. That's why your prayers aren't answered. Because you've assigned purpose to something else. You've made purpose what church said purpose was. You've made purpose, number 3, purpose. You've made purpose what you've done for the church. Purpose is me doing my job. Purpose is me making money. Purpose does that. But what purpose actually does is when it ignites, it triggers inside of you, you know why this is happening. That's why I go, why did they hit me? Why did she cuss at me? Why is there racism? Why is that? These purpose begins to make your mind think outside the box. That's what purpose does. Purpose makes you think outside the box. Got it? So now, what's your purpose? When you begin to see your purpose, you will go beyond your mental capacities and you'll reach for purpose. So there's passion, there's pressure, and there's purpose. That's what moves you. When you realize somebody saying, hey, I've got your new car down the street. Your movement becomes purposeful now. I know, where am I going? Man, I'm going to get in my car. You stop listening to anybody, you stop doing anything, and you find yourself moving in the place that you need to move. Why? Because now I've got a purpose. Stop talking to me. I got to go. Leave me alone. I got to go. I got purpose now. Not pressure, but purpose. It's a joyful purpose. My wife, whenever she gets ready to get out of town, she cleans the entire house. It's not a grudge because she knows she's leaving. She's about to be out of town. It's not pressure because she's about to be out of town. Purpose. Purpose is a loving nudge from your spirit. It's a loving reward for your movement. Be ye steadfast and unmovable, knowing that there's a destination. So purpose is a prayer trigger. And the final one, perspective. Now, these are the only ones. These are prayer triggers. Perspective. Putting your life, your situation into perspective and moving from that. So let me help you out. So now that you know that passion is a tool of God, you know that pressure is a tool of God, you know that purpose is a tool of God, your life is now in perspective. You're going, I've been decreasing my power because I thought God wasn't moving in these areas. So when I have to sleep in a car, I'm thinking, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Or where is God? When the whole time was at this moment, at the twinkling of an eye, at the snap of a finger, you could be out of your situation. But why are you there in the first place? So perspective starts to make you start going, now, what does perspective do? Perspective makes you begin to depend on the wisdom of the Spirit. Perspective causes you, it triggers your dependency on the wisdom of the Spirit. When you let that trigger go, that trigger makes you love God at a level that nobody can shake you and nobody can move you. Because you realize that the whole time he was there and he was connected to you at a greater level. Those are triggers. The key to that is, now there's some more. There's the feeling of loss. That is a trigger. To feel like you're just lost by yourself. And a lot of us go through depression because we don't know that there's no such thing as loss in this atmosphere that we live in, because we don't live here. This is something we occupy. If someone cuts my shirt or tears my shirt, even though my wife made this shirt, I'm not going to be mad about it. My wife will be a little upset because somebody cut the shirt. We'll just make another shirt. Perspective. Why? Because you have to understand that you're powerful. And now, y'all ready? Y'all ready for this? Okay. So here's where the rub is. Here's where the things get interesting. Let me drink some water. Here is where the bit of controversy takes place. Here is where everything gets very interesting. The controversy happens here. If you know that passion, pressure, purpose, and perspective are prayer triggers, what would happen if you prayed with those things within your prayer? What if you prayed with passion? What if you prayed and pressured the Spirit? What if you prayed with perspective? And what if you prayed with purpose? What would happen if you pressed all those things into your prayer? And when you sit in your time of prayer, whether it's walking down the street or living in your apartment or living in your house, what would happen if you prayed with such passion? The Bible says that Jesus prayed till his sweat felt like blood. What would happen if you prayed with such passion because you know God's going to do it? What would happen if you pressured yourself until I'm going to stay in this place until God moves? What would happen if you would do it with purpose? I need God to move. I need him to move. I know he can, but I'm going to stay here till my carnal mind stops lying to me and telling me that it's not going to happen. And my carnal mind relaxes and begins to allow God to speak to me on how it's going to happen. What would happen if you prayed with perspective? Meaning that God is in control of everything that happens in my life. God is the purpose and the plan of my life. God is here. He can handle this. Because I don't see it doesn't mean he's not doing it. Because I don't understand it doesn't mean he's not doing it. What if I prayed with that type of vigor? What if I prayed P until U something S happened H? What if I prayed with such pressure, such passion, that I stopped letting people tell me how this thing is going to land or how this thing is going to work out? And I begin to believe that God is the one that begins it. The Bible says he putteth down one and raiseth up another. What if I prayed with such passion that because Billy left me doesn't mean that I'm devastated? Billy can go. He doesn't have to come back. Why? Because I pray with purpose. I can't let you shake me off of my purpose because you don't like my purpose. I can't let you stop my passion because you don't like where I'm moving. I can't let you change my purpose or change my pressure because you don't like me. What would happen if you prayed with those attributes that triggered another level of spiritual access? Oh my God, could you imagine? I have to get you to understand something. You're in such a wonderful day and wonderful time right now, but what happens is all the things around you are trying to tell you that you can't have it, you can't do it, it's not going to happen. Because that is happening, most of you are now in the struggle desperation mode. And the struggle desperation mode goes, what do I do? So I look at you and I say, hey, why don't you write a book? Boom. Pressure pushes in and you begin to go, I can't write a book. Now the pressure of writing a book has now stopped you from moving the way you need to move because you don't think you can do it. There's not a person on this planet that can't write a book. And actually, I can teach you how to write a book in less than a week. If I say, hey, you need to get to another place financially, all of a sudden you go to the height of your finances and go, well, so I guess I'm going to make $1,000. I'm going, no, you can make $1 million. Now your brain is gone because your insecurities have happened and your inability to do certain things have kicked in. And so now you're stuck. So now God releases a pressure that makes you push past $1,000 mindset and put you into a $100,000 mindset. Push you past a $100,000 mindset and put you into $1 million mindset. So those pressures, those triggers. But if you started going, he said $1 million. I use that as a baton. I grab that baton. I don't have a baton. I don't have one to show y'all. I grab that baton and I begin to take that baton to my Father who are in heaven and go, you can do this. Here is perspective. Are you ready? Perspective says, if it's ever been done, it can be done for me. If anybody on the planet has been healed, you can be healed. See, this is what testimonies and reading testimonies and hanging out with people like me is all about. If God has shown up on a situation ever on the history of this planet, he can do it for you. Because there's no difference between bond and free, smart and dumb, black and white, short and tall, crazy and retarded, whatever. There's no difference. All you have to do is figure out the level of access or the trigger that caused them to get to that place. And everybody, here's what's interesting. We've all had triggers. Every one of you has had a trigger. Every one of you has been in a position of something crazy. I went through the people that I was mentoring, and every one of them have been through something crazy, and a lot of them have been through the same thing. And they've gone through loss and personal attack. Every one of you. Some of you have been through personal attack because you want to move, and the perspective is off, and the passion is off, but the pressure is placed from something outside to keep you controlled. So what happens is my pastor controls you. Us. Some of my greatest tragedies in my entire life have been because I didn't put spirituality into perspective. You now are walking around in fear. And the reason you fear is because you don't believe that the next thing is going to happen. And you don't believe that you either are worthy of it, or you believe it can be happening, or you truly don't believe God is real. You think he's just somebody that prays, that you pray to like a petulant child, and whenever you don't do what he tells you to do, he tries to strike you down. Yeah. Nah, that's not him. If you took these 4 attributes and joined them with your prayer, what do you think would take place? Can you imagine what would actually happen if you took these things and you attached them to your prayer? You have a financial situation. Put some passion behind it. Put some pressure behind it. Put some purpose behind it. By the end of 2022, you're going to be a millionaire. Purpose. That's why I say I don't do affirmations. I don't have to do affirmations. Pressure. I put pressure. This is what I'm going to do. Now, what would happen is procedure, and process. I'm going to add that one down there. Process. Or process. Process. I didn't write it right. Process. Everybody write that around. Write process down. I said, everybody write process. Process. There's a process of believing God. Then there's a process of accepting God. Two different things. There's believing God and accepting God. Process. Everybody can write the word process. Okay? So, here's where it goes, and here's how it goes. Process says when you add all these things, all these triggers to your prayer, from that point on, you have to now walk the thing you've prayed. You got it? You have to walk the thing you've prayed. We right now, my wife and I, we have a situation right now. We have a situation. And when this situation, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with this situation. So we ask God to give us a sign because we don't know. And at that moment, the phone rings. He gives us a sign. Process. So now, this is before the process. I mean, this is before we pray. This is before we ask him. When you pray, your prayer, hear me guys, hear me. When you pray, stop worrying about the mistake of the prayer. Stop worrying about whether that thing is going to happen or not going to happen. Be willing to lose, be willing to sacrifice for the next level. Why? Right now, God tells you to go to a restaurant. There's one here called McCormick and Schmidt, whatever. There's a restaurant called McCormick and Schmidt. Go to the restaurant and go get you a meal. How many of you, now McCormick and Schmidt will probably cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 or $60 for one person. How many would go? Now, because you have the capability, not just trying to, have the capability, and even if you don't, how many of you would go? Believing that God will be there. And you go and nothing happens. You go and nobody's there. You go and you just spend $50 on a meal. Now you're upset because you go, then why in the world would I go? See, when you understand systematic spirituality, you understand that his perspective is greater than your perspective. So let's just use this as a moment of imagine this. So you go to McCormick and Smith, and when you go to McCormick and Smith, you sit there, and people walk by, and the waiter walks by, and he goes, "Hey, what you doing?" "Well, I'm just here really trusting God. I'm just having me a meal." You go to the meal, they discount the meal. So you don't pay $30, $50, you pay like $20 or maybe $30. They discount the meal. You go, "Wow, that was amazing." God is not that limited, people. He's not that limited. He's not that small. So you leave the restaurant. Hypothetically, this has happened to me. You leave the restaurant, and I'll tell you a story that happened like this. So in the restaurant, you leave the restaurant, you go, "Well, okay, that was good." 2 weeks later, someone calls you and says, "Hey, I have a job for you." And you go, "How do you know me?" "Well, while you were at McCormick and Schmidt, I saw you and I asked the lady who you were. And she told me who you were. So I have a job for you. Would you like a job?" Now you're going, "Wow. I thought McCormick and Schmidt was just a restaurant." It's a universal spiritual system. It's a process. But you have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You have to be. Why? Because what you've been doing now is not working too well, or you'd already be in your promise. So, here's my story. I have a million, guys, if I say I got a million stories, I promise you I got a million stories. So I go to, I'm working for MCI, whatever, and they let us go. And the funny thing, they let us go, and 2 months later I found a job in another place, because in the communication industry there's always jobs. So what the guy said, you need to go down to unemployment. So I go down to unemployment, and I said, "Listen, I've never applied for unemployment in my entire life. What do I do?" And the lady said, "Well, go back and talk to the gate, one of the representatives." I said, "Okay." So I go back and talk to the representative. I'm sitting there with the representative, and she just seems flustered. She's kind of just, Yeah, you know that whole. You know how y'all do. Just you're not mad, but you putting things down solidly. And I said, well, ma'am, what's the problem? She said, nothing. And the Lord spoke to me at that very moment. He said, you're upset. And he said, you're upset about a man. She goes, oh, no, not really. I said, yes, you are. And I said, the thing about that man, he's not in town. I said, but here's what's crazy. He's going to be in town in 3 days, and you have to decide whether you're going to let him go or no. I said, I'm sorry. I said, this is a man. She said, I don't have a man. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I must have made it wrong. I must not have heard God right. She said, I don't have a man. She said, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a man. I said, no, you do have a man. And I said, in 3 days, you're going to see him again. And she goes, sir, you don't know what you're talking about. And I said, okay. I let it go. I'm at home for a month, beating myself up, thinking that I said the wrong thing. Mad because I'm going, God, why would you? Is that you? Now I'm questioning my process. I'm questioning my hearing. But I know what I heard. I just maybe was wrong. Maybe I heard it wrong. 2 months later, I've got to go because when you get a new job, you have to do something. And I live close to unemployment, so I went over. And she was there. And I walked in and I said, well, how are you? And she says, fine. She said, I have been looking for you. I said, why are you looking for me? She said, 3 days later, to the moment, a boyfriend that I had been wanting back in my life showed up at the airport. He said, I just flew in she said 3 days later, he called me from the airport and said, I just flew in to see you to see if we could work it out. She said, Mr. Dallas, how did you know that? You have to be willing to be wrong. It is not a detriment. You have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to be wrong. Sorry, guys. You have to be willing to be wrong. If you're not willing to be wrong, what you'll find yourself is protecting yourself so you're right all the time. You have to engage your triggers. You've got to engage your triggers. But you got to believe that he is. You got to believe that he's powerful. You got to believe that he's everything that you ever thought he could be. You got to believe that. If you don't believe that, you'll find yourself in a situation where you're always in lack. You're always missing out. You're always going, why? Because, see, when you understand that being right or wrong does not determine whether you're a good or bad person, being right or wrong simply means I'm either going to be right and keep moving or be wrong and learn to move past it. You have to understand that. If you don't understand that, you put those things in perspective. I've been in a number of places where I know God has said something and I say something and people go, no, that's not right. And then 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm starting to go, wow. They said, yeah, you told me this. I remember I told a lady she was going to have a little boy. And she said, I'm not even pregnant. I said, well, your next child is going to be a little boy. He's 5 years old when she meets me. And she said, Brother Dallas. I said, yes. She said, you remember? I said, sweetie, I don't. I said, oh, yeah, you were supposed to have a little boy. He walks off from behind her. But I trigger my prayers. I'm passionate about what I do. Because I believe God. I trust God. God is not out there. God is wherever I am. And when I know God is wherever I am, I don't let you define how I pray, when I pray, what I pray. I put myself in a position where I trust that God says do it. This I'm doing now is a trust of God. I went from having a salary to having no salary whatsoever and saying, God, you take care of me. That's it. Now, that's the last time you're going to ever hear me say that. Because I'm not doing this so that you feel pressured to go, oh, wait, you are not my supply. You are the obedience to whatever God tells you. If he tells you nothing, you do nothing. When you are in those positions, I've been saying this is my new little term. Don't depend on the destination. Depend on the origination. So if God tells you to do something, don't depend on the person you do it for to bless you. Depend on the person that told you to do it to bless you. We depend on the destination. If God told you right now, I'm worth whatever I'm worth, and God said, hey, I got a new car. We'll just say that. Send Uncle Dallas your car. Give him your car. You're looking at the destination going, wait a minute, he don't need my, You got it wrong. You got it wrong. You're not looking at the destination. You're looking at the origination. So if he told you to do something, you have to be willing to be wrong. I tell everybody, I said, that's why I give the cash out to everybody. And I don't finish these by saying, hey, send some money. No, I do these because everybody here, when God speaks, you move. And some people have moved consistently, and it's the craziest thing in the world. And it's always when something comes up. Why? Because you have to understand that it's not about the destination. I cannot do anything unless God tells me. I can't minister. I can't prophesy. I can't tell the future, tell the past. I can't do anything. Ty Tribbett said, I can do nothing without him. But if you're caught in this religious Christianity thing where you're cycling through finances and cycling through emotions and cycling through friendships and cycling through obedience, meaning today I like him, tomorrow I don't. The pastor say we don't like him. Oh, if you're cycling through that, you're still immature. And he has to trigger you to your maturity. You're still immature. If every time somebody says something, you go, well, the scripture don't say that, you're not ready yet. You're not ready. If your dependency is on the fact of the written word to tell you what you can and cannot do, baby, you're not ready. You're not ready. You went to elementary school and they taught you your arithmetic. You don't run back to the elementary school every time you got to do a math problem. You already have the knowledge. You use the knowledge. And the more you use it, the Bible even says, by reason of use, you should be mature. But if you're still going, let me see what my pastor said, you're not ready, darling. Because you have not deemed yourself mature enough to hear God. And when you deem yourself mature enough to hear God, then you get mature God blessings. You get mature God movement. Well, I don't like myself. You're not ready yet. Because you think liking yourself is important to moving with God. Well, I didn't feel like that was God. You're not ready yet. You think obedience hinges on the fact of your feelings. Well, something told me. You're not ready. It's not something. It's God. It's always God. It's never something. It's never something. It's always God. Be bold enough to say, I believe the Spirit of God told me something. What if I'm wrong? Then you're just wrong. It's okay. You'll get up in the morning and the sun will shine like it did the day before. Why? Because being wrong, moving toward your spirit, always causes a blessing from your spirit. Say it again. Being wrong, moving toward your spirit, always causes a blessing from your spirit. So really, you'll never make a mistake. It'll never mess up. Why? Because you were doing it with the heart. Because man looks at the outward appearance. God looks at the heart. He looks at the inward appearance. So he will still take care of you. Now, you're not trying to trick anybody. So what happens is you'll never suffer. You'll never lack. Well, why am I lacking? Because you turned right when he turned. You told you to turn left. Or you're not lacking. You just haven't accessed everything that he gave you because you're still insecure about it. And then you pressure yourself, your mind trying to do it right, stop pressuring yourself. I talked to a friend of mine yesterday. I said, listen, you need to go somewhere and be away. Well, I want to take my kids. You ain't ready yet. It ain't kids. It's you. You are carrying pressures, and some of you hear me prophetically. Some of you are carrying pressures that are not your pressures. They're your grown kids' pressures. They're your grown mama, your cousin. They're not your pressures. So when I say lay aside every weight and the sin that does so easily beset you, stop carrying other people's pressures. Pressure. All right? It's Friday. So my YouTube, my Instagram, and my Facebook family, that's it for us. We're done. If you have any questions, comments, and concerns, make sure you go to either comments in my Facebook, comments in my Instagram, or comments in YouTube, and I'll get to you. If you're not a part of the mentoring group, please become a part of it. I promise you, God is doing amazing things in there. If you're not got your one-on-one with me, do a one-on-one with me. You need to talk to me. Let's see where we can help you get to where you need to be spiritually. I don't make up stuff. I don't try. They're normally very fun calls. Those that have called know that we enjoy the conversations and we are ready to move to another level. I need 1,000 people to begin to get this thing. Why? At 1,000 people, I can change the world. And God can use you to do it. 1,000 people that see the Spirit of God, that help families, that see, we have to get to a point that the power, I'm so tired of being the person that looks crazy because I go, well, why don't you just let that go? Why don't you just forgive that? And they look at me like I'm crazy. I never forget, I was talking to a young lady, and then I'm going to go. I was talking to a young lady, and she was married, and her finances were crazy. I told the story yesterday. Her finances were crazy. And because her finances were crazy, she came and she said, Pastor Dallas, I'm sorry, God. Prophet Dallas is what they would call me. And I try not to say that because I don't really like trying to make people feel like I'm trying to be something else than I am. And God didn't say to say that, so I'm not saying it. She said, Brother Dallas, I want you to help me. I said, what's wrong? She said, I'm having a problem with my finances. She said, it seems no matter how hard we try, we just can't get to that next level. We get a card and the card's bad. Oh, I can't get it. What should we do? And the Lord said, He said, child support. I said, oh, do you have a son? She said, yeah. Is he on child support? She goes, yeah. I said, go let him off child support. She said, what? I said, go let him off of child support. She said, okay. I said, you asked the question? That's the answer. See, I'm not going to go to the good place. I'm not going to go to the logical place. I'm going to tell you what God tells me. That's what I'm going to tell you. She said, what should I do? I said, go to child support. She said, it's funny. This week I'm going to the child support court. I said, when you go to court, tell him no. He's done. Let him go. She says she goes to court. She calls me like 2 days later. I'm out of town. She says, I went to court. And she said, Dallas, they all but made me feel stupid for letting that man go. I said, no, because the system wants you to stay dependent on a carnal level. They never want you to be spiritual. Because they know if you begin to be spiritual, you become independent. And she said, well, I did it. And I said, that was 3 days later. She called me 2 days later. She got a contract for $40,000. $40,000. She said, I don't understand. I said, what you don't understand is you put dependency on stuff where God wanted you to be Him, or God wanted you to depend on Him, and you put dependency on the man. I said, you treated that man like he was God. She said, I did. I said, every time you needed money, you called him, you started threatening his children. And I said, all because he hurt you and you were mad about it. So what you did is you held him accountable for it. Some of you are doing that right now. You may not be doing the child support, but you're doing it to your husband because he didn't say what you thought he should say he should do. So all of a sudden, instead of you being understanding, you just did it. I talked to my wife yesterday, and she was saying, I can't understand why they do that. I said, well, then look at a situation in your life that the same type of thing happened, and then you'll understand why they did it. She goes, oh. I said, sometimes we're so judgmental because we're Christians. Sometimes we're so judgmental that we never allow ourselves to see things for what they are, because we want to be better than everybody else. I don't. I just want you guys better. I want you guys better. If I could put you here and let you do this, my work is done. But I know it's a lot bigger than that. So, all right, guys. Woo! Somebody type anger-induced. Anger-induced movement. So, again, we're here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We will not have, I don't know, guys, because I love our mentoring class. So stay close to your text messages. If you are a part of it, stay close to your text message. If you're not a part of it, you get to, because I may do something because we're going to be out of town. I may just take my laptop and my information, and I may talk to you guys while I'm out of town, because there's some things. Every day God is saying something different. He said this morning. Every day He's saying something. And so pay attention to your text messages, because if I do it, I'll let you know like on Wednesday, on Friday, that I'm going to do it on Tuesday, so I'll give you some time. But I didn't want people to take away from holidays, spending time with family, and some people don't. But I didn't want to do that, so that's why I said I was going to do the last one. But we'll see. We'll see. So. For those of you that come later, this is your first time, thank you, welcome. Make sure you subscribe, like, and follow. Share this video with anybody you want to. Everybody, these are on record for you. They're not on record for me. I taught it. They're on record for you. And every once in a while, I go back and listen because I hear revelation. but I've made these on record for you. So go to YouTube. If you want to share it, send it to somebody. It's open. Send it to somebody and let them hear how to move in their prayer to have the mind of God and have the life that God has promised them. My name is Uncle Dallas, or William Dallas, and I want to say thank you for joining us and welcome to a higher standard in your life. We will see you on Monday.